buzzwords. When should you use them? When should you avoid them? And what should you do if you are on the receiving end of them? So there are a lot of buzzwords out there, a lot of business buzzwords, and they're used occasionally, at least, for good reason. They're used as shortcuts. When everybody knows what they mean, they can be really efficient. When they get used too much, they start to get ridiculed. What I've found is that buzzwords can create a certain feeling in audience members. So when they hear them, they can stop listening or they can start listening in a different way. So I want to recommend that when you use buzzwords, first of all, you kind of need to pay attention to even find out if the words that you're using are landing as buzzwords. So really, what you need to do when you're speaking is you need to pay attention to how your words are landing out there. You might discover that you're using words that your audience considers buzzwords. So there's two possible reactions for you to pay attention to in your audience when you speak to them. One is if they kind of smirk when you don't expect it, then you might be using a word that they consider to be a buzzword. If they look confused, you might be using a buzzword, because very often what buzzwords are is they are shortcuts. They mean this many words, and they have been distilled down to this word. If there is agreement between you and your audience that this word means this many words, then it can be really efficient, and you absolutely should use it. But if it creates confusion, then maybe it only means that abbreviated thing to you, and it doesn't mean that to the people that you're talking to. Very often, buzzwords can mean a lot of different things. So if you are creating confusion in your audience, they might not know which meaning you're talking about. So pay attention to your audience as you speak to them. If there is some sort of emotional reaction that you're not expecting, inquire into that and see if you need to explain more about the words that you're using. Now, if you're on the receiving end of buzzwords, if somebody is speaking to you or to a group that you're a part of, and they use a word that you don't know exactly how to interpret, it can create the same thing for you. It can create some confusion for you. I want to recommend that you pay attention to that. Pay attention to how you feel. If you're feeling excluded because they're using a word that they clearly know and maybe everybody else around you seems to know it. If you're feeling confused because they're using a word that could have a lot of interpretations, then ask about it. If you're uncomfortable interrupting the presentation or the conversation, if you feel like you are excluding yourself further by raising your hand and saying, "Hey, I don't know what you mean by that," then maybe make a note of it and ask about it when you feel safer, when it's more of a one-on-one conversation. If you do that, you will definitely resolve your clarity, or you will discover that there's a lack of clarity on the person who used the word just now. I think it's not at all uncommon for buzzwords to get so used and overused that when people use them, they really don't have a specific understanding of the word, and it becomes kind of blurry and unspecific. So pay attention to how words land on you and make a point of asking for clarity. Communication needs to be clear. If you notice that words that people use create any uncertainty or any problematic feelings for you, pursue them, ask about them, resolve them. And you might discover that that conversation is not just good for you, it's good for the person who used the words as well. Give it a shot. Let us know how it goes.